Hi, I'm Desiree Chappell. Welcome to TopMedTalk. It's Tuesday and it's time for my Roundtable. The Roundtable is a chance to sit down with a multidisciplinary group to have discussion about perioperative care and improving the quality of what we do every day.
TopMedTalk.
Welcome to TopMedTalk. We're here at the American Society for Enhanced Recovery in Washington, D.C. I'm Desiree Chappell, host of TopMedTalk and managing editor, and host of the Roundtable, which we're going to be doing more of here at this meeting. I'm joined today by Korey Sprigman. She is an anesthesiologist from Duke and co-hosting with me today at ACER. Thank you so much for joining us, Korey.
Oh, thanks. It's so great to be here. It's, again, just a wonderful place and people to be around. All the energy from here, you just feel that people are so interested in perioperative medicine. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it's really exciting. This ACER meeting, typically this multidisciplinary, group of people coming together, there is a lot of excitement for it. I think that it's our chance to really get around and be around the people that are our tribe, and that you feel so isolated whenever you're in practice.
100%.
Yeah,
but then you come here and people are passionate.
Yes.
They're ingenious. They have different ideas. How are you going to implement it? What to do? And really a lot of learning from each other.
Yeah.
It's inspiring.
It is, yeah. So our guests, we have two special guests with us today. Jamie Harris from Tulsa, Oklahoma. She's a CRNA. Jamie, I have been so looking forward to having you on TopMedTalk. We've had a couple conversations. We both are involved with the ANA Shared Interest Group, and that's kind of how we met. And you were giving us your experience, and I'll let you talk about it here in just 1 second. But I think it's really important and a testament to utilizing what we hear at meetings like this and what we, the knowledge base out there for enhanced recovery and put it into practice as a solo practitioner. So I'm going to let you go into that in just 1 second.
Okay.
I also want to introduce Carol Schmidt, who's a dear friend of mine. Through ACER, we met, I guess like 4 years ago,
Right.
Through the CRNA committee and nursing committee. You're also a CRNA from Michigan.
Right.
And in charge of enhanced recovery and kind of your anesthesia practice as well. So thank you both for joining us so much. I'm really excited to have both of you on here. So really, first of all, your take, Carol, you've been here for 4 years. What is your take on the meeting this year?
I think that the quality is equally as good, but I think it's more refined than what it was 4 years ago. I feel like 4 years ago there were lots of ideas flying and lots of original work being done, and that every year you see that they work more and more to really have just kind of consolidate the evidence. And so I'm always amazed. I'm always so impressed with the quality of the speakers, and that everyone really, they're original authors on the work, and just the energy, like you said, that it's amazing.
I'm sure it sounds like you've seen it evolve.
Yeah, it really has been an evolution. That you think that the next time you come, it's just going to be textbook stuff, but there's always more to come. So yeah, it's very interesting.
It's good to look, kind of beyond the horizon at some of the things that are coming, but there's still a lot of basic stuff that we all kind of still are dealing with as well. And I think in the U.S. we're still varying on our degree of enhanced recovery, one standardization, but just adoption.
Right.
In general, there's a lot of people. Jamie, from your perspective, this is your first ACER meeting.
Yes.
Yeah. So what do you think?
It's been awesome. I've learned. Every speaker has I've just learned so much, and it's almost overwhelming. So I'm like, I'm taking notes and just trying to figure out, how to implement this back at the hospital that I work at.
I could totally relate. When the first time I went to a perioperative type conference was at Chicago, and I was literally with my computer just taking notes, references, because it's jam packed with full of information, and you really see that, I need to know this, and we can use this building our ERAS programs going forward.
Yeah. Jamie, tell us a little bit about your experience with enhanced recovery and kind of how you got involved into it, your experience with it, and how you've taken that and bringing it here to the meeting.
So about a year ago, our chief CRNA had sent me a podcast from TopMedTalk, and it was over the fluid management, and I was just so intrigued and listened to some other podcasts and heard, enhanced recovery, and didn't know really what it was. So I started just doing my own research, and then from that, I just started implementing that in my own practice with same-day surgery patients, just doing the multimodal approaches. and just realizing that with using esmolol and ketamine and lidocaine, and, instead of using the Versed and fentanyl and stuff, the patients were doing awesome. They were waking up clear-minded. They weren't hurting. And I was just like floored. So then from that, I just kind of told some others what we were doing, and then other people kind of started helping out. But we've really added a lot of regional anesthesia with the multimodal, and doing the cranies and going back and seeing them, 4 or 5 hours post, and they're sitting up in bed, they're talking, they're, watching football with their family, which was important to one of our patients. He wanted to know if he could watch the OU game after surgery, and just seeing them able to sit up and do that and converse with family. And you had never thought this patient just had a cranie.
No, that's amazing.
And even with some of the Whipples that we've done with doing the tap blocks and multimodals, those patients are, out of bed, and, it's just so inspiring and encouraging and just motivational to do that for every patient.
How do you think you got buy-in? Because I know we've had these conversations before, like your surgeons, so a lot of them are really starting to come on board. And how have you gone about that?
Really just picking out surgeons that I have a good rapport with, and that we've had a surgeon come on that's from Cleveland Clinic that does the Whipples and liver cases, and he was enhanced recovery. And so kind of partnered with him, and then just word of mouth. So like with the scalp blocks, one of our new neurosurgeons, where he trained at Hopkins, they did scalp blocks. And so just kind of partnering with them, and then it was just word of mouth, and Dr. So-and-so's doing this, well, I want to do this for my patients. And sometimes I think right now the challenge is the surgeons want it, but they want us to do it all, right? So it's trying to get with the surgeons and let them know that it's more than just what we do intraoperatively. It's really that preoperative part of it that we really need to start focusing on, because that's where it's at.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. So a lot of people say that they're doing enhanced recovery, and they may be, but they're doing mainly just multimodal,
right?
Or just just change pre-op. What are you guys doing internally to kind of expand the continuum of care outside of that multimodal?
Well, our goal is to eventually have the PAT clinic that's going to be ran by anesthesia. At least the medical director of anesthesia have like a nurse practitioner or PA that will to run that. And then, on elective cases, try to make it, with administration backing, that those patients have to come through our clinic within, 3 to 4 weeks, so we can try to optimize them. We also want to do the anemia clinic, and so it's just we're still in that process of getting all that stuff together. As a matter of fact, we have an outpatient infusion clinic to where we can send the patients to get the iron therapy.
Oh, IV iron therapy. Oh, awesome! That's great. Well, Carol, I know that this is kind of your wheelhouse, because whenever we first met, one of the things on every conference call that we were on, you're like, does anybody have a plan to start a PAT clinic or an enhanced recovery clinic?
Right.
So tell me a little bit about your background, and then how you got involved with enhanced recovery and your experience maybe with these PAT clinics.
Well, our hospital, and I don't think it's unique that probably 25 years ago they eliminated the brick and mortar pre-op clinic and went strictly to 100% phone screening patients. And while it's very effective at reducing the cancellation rate and optimizing patients somewhat through a consultation and medication management,
just the phone call part,
right?
Yeah,
we realized that in order to initiate this process, that we needed to have a brick and mortar where the patients came in. And so I was where Jamie is 4 years ago, struggling to get the administration to allocate funds for an APP. And after persevering,
that's
got
an advanced practice
provider.
Yeah.
And once we got that approval and started bringing patients in, that we realized that's part of the secret sauce. Really, is the patient engagement, and you can't do it as well without seeing them in that pre-op phase for the prehabilitation. So it was a great idea to do what Jamie and her team are doing with the anesthetic intra-op, but we really believe that it's the patient engagement and that pre-op phase that is equally as important.
One thing I've always viewed my role, especially because I was a nurse before I went to medical school.
Oh, wow.
And then went to medical school, and then you start interacting with patients, and you realize, like, there's a lot of accountability, responsibility that the patients, you want them to take ownership over their outcomes just as much as we want to take ownership over what we can control. And I think that it is really that conversation, those communications that really empowers the patients to recognize these are the things that you can do or that we can do in order to deliver that outcome that you really want.
Right. I think it's an aha moment when the patient doesn't think they just arrive and that they surrender and everything will be done for them.
Absolutely.
That to have accountability in the care, that it's a shared process is really, really important. Absolutely. And I think it's very empowering for patients.
Yeah,
100%.
It's like a pre-education clinic.
Yeah.
Too, you know, I mean, that's really the basis of what know, what we're doing. It's educating them, educating the team on the patient.
Right.
So yeah, that's a great experience. Carol, you started the clinic, you did some of these things, but you guys are also doing a lot of really interesting kind of like little pilot programs. And we talked about this yesterday. We did a shared interest, ANA shared interest group webinar. And one of the points that you brought up that I think is really important when you're talking about starting kind of where Jamie is with everything are these kind of like pilot programs. What has your experience been with utilizing small quality improvement type pilot studies to be able to get widespread adoption?
Right. So I think that during one of the lectures yesterday, they talked about that as well, that you don't have to have randomized trials with 5,000 million patients in them, that you can really just kind of start out and give it a try. I'll give you an example that our total shoulder patients, they had a block and a catheter, and it turns out long story short, the rate was probably a little bit too high. People were getting, complications, Horner syndrome, whatnot. They turn the pump off. They have pain. They're getting IV Dilaudid. And then, so the outcome was, pain control. And so we brought 20 patients into the clinic. And with all the adjustments in the anesthetic and the pain pump and teaching them beforehand about the pain infusion, that your armpit, you'll feel something, that, the medial side of your arm, that the patients, it was amazing that they took no IV opioids and they were discharged on post-op day one. And, we had a patient who happened to have bilateral. So one a year ago and then one, in the present time. And she describes it as being night and day, that she threw up for 3 days and felt horrible, to it was amazing. I felt nothing pretty much and went home. So that was 20 patients. And it was really astonishing, the difference.
So how did you follow up with that? Besides that one patient, how were you able to follow up with the other ones? Because the patient experience is really what we're all hoping to improve upon, right? And a lot of that is more of a qualitative experience.
Right. So just kind of patient-reported outcome type data, that we did not do that in this case, but I'm a big fan of that. And I think that, that a lot of our collaboratives in the state of Michigan, that all total hip and knee, that there's patient-reported outcomes, in the sequenced, and spine, we've got it. Just really looking at the quality of life of these people. So mine's kind of anecdotal.
It takes time to get that kind of data.
Because it's time consuming.
Right.
To
it's not very objective and right. So.
Right.
Yeah. There was another quality improvement program or something, one that your CRNAs want to do with vitrectomies.
Right. So she was doing a literature review and looking at cognitive dysfunction in elderly patients having surgery, and she just took it upon herself to isolate that group of vitrectomy patients that really they were getting probably 10 to 12 medications, during their anesthetic. And so she created a protocol that limited it down to 5 and partnered with the surgeon and the anesthesiologist and the PACU, and reduced the outcome that she just measured was time to discharge from the PACU, and it was decreased by 30 minutes. She didn't look at cognitive dysfunction because it's already in the literature, so that isn't what she did. She just knew she was following evidence-based practice, and just it was very simple to implement. She pretty much, with the help of us, did it on her own. And so I think every professional can take the initiative to make little improvements here and there. So
I think it's so important just to, if you have a question, it's okay to ask it.
Right.
And it's okay to kind of act upon it to see if you can make a difference.
Absolutely.
Jamie, have you experienced that a little bit, it sounds like?
Yeah, just by taking, what I've read and heard and implementing that in my practice and just seeing, the difference, before or on a hysterectomy, for instance, I was given 2 Dilaudid in Versed, to where now we do tap blocks, magnesium, lidocaine, and they get nothing. And the surgeon is just floored. I mean, every patient, even his C-sections now, we do blocks and stuff on, because he said that he's reduced his opioid prescriptions by 85%.
Oh,
that's a huge burden to take off of them too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because he doesn't want to be called back, and he was just at first. He was a surgeon that wouldn't even allow us to give IV Tylenol because it would interfere with the Percocets post-op.
Wow.
That is impressive. Have you thought about doing any posters or presenting any of that information?
I need to.
Yeah. That's one thing that I always, Carol, you guys are really good about doing that. Like doing some poster presentations. And I know with Vizient you've done stuff, and with Acer you've put posters in. How can you tell others out there that are listening about, if you are doing these small type things or whatever you've done in practice, sharing that with others? Because as we know, that when you're in this, again, like I said, you feel so isolated, and you may be able to read these big studies, but like, how does that really work in my practice? And I think posters and presentations make a big difference. Like, what would you recommend to others that are interested in that?
Well, you submit the poster, obviously, for approval to Acer, and I think that they take that into consideration, that what can the normal kind of clinician, what kind of work can they do? And I always partner we have a very small anesthesiology residency there, and they always need a project. So it's just like works out perfect. They do kind of the nuts and bolts of the work, and it's not a lot of work either. And so I usually partner with someone that needs to do a project just to kind of get the slide formatted and, whatnot. So that's what we've really done.
That's a great idea. And I mean, there's always, even if you're in a community facility, there are people working on their DNP projects, master's programs.
I mean, even nursing students. Or
that's what I was going to say. Nursing
therapy students.
Yeah, those corner capstone projects they have to do.
100%.
Yeah, because it's not that complicated.
No, and I feel like as nursing, one thing that you guys are the champions for education with patients, because a lot of times spend a lot more time with them. And I know from previously being a nurse, like, we're really good at educating and communication, and that's a whole purpose of enhanced recovery, is not only educating patients but also educating other providers on transitioning a lot of what we do, because everyone is really important in that patient's outcomes.
Right.
One of the things we did internally, where I worked at Audubon and Norton Healthcare, was one of our DNP students. I had them write the education manual. And it's like scripting stuff. And I mean, we did that in our enhanced recovery program. I just wrote scripts out for, like, if you don't know anything about enhanced recovery, you can literally read this to the patient and they will get the information that they need. And we had someone do that as a project. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can tap into the resources of those people and get that education out to the masses. Jamie, one last, for everybody here, actually, one last question. So what is the thing that you want to take away most from, like, your experience here at Acer and some of these other meetings that you go to pertaining to enhanced recovery and perioperative medicine?
The one thing that's really caught my attention is doing the small group studies, partnering with the surgeon, being consistent, working with him and doing the 20 patients and seeing those outcomes and following through with those patients.
Yeah. Carol, what do you think?
I think
for you at this stage,
I think it's ideas, and networking is a huge thing to getting to know you, getting to know just other people in this kind of enhanced recovery community. And I always come back with ideas, and I'm not a physician and I'm not a scientist or a researcher. So to be able to say, this is where it's trending, that fluid management is still, an idea that is still, that acute kidney injury. I mean, I've always been I don't really understand that and how it relates to anesthesia, and I do now. So I think it's just ideas and just kind of the energy. So.
Well, and I think creating something that I can call you on the phone and be like, what are you doing for this particular thing? And I know that through the nursing coordinator group, through our CRNA group, through, the other physicians, everybody here, like you create these contacts that you can literally have, that can be your support system through that. That's what I want to take away the most whenever I come to these meetings.
And that's what's exciting about the AA and ASIC group. It's just the people are going to have that resource now to reach out to you and just ask questions like how, what do y'all run this infusion at? What block do you do for this? Or, just what's your experience and help others.
Yeah, absolutely.
Korey, what do you think?
I mean, I think you all are hit on everything. It's really about collaboration and support. When you implement change in any portion of healthcare or in life, it's hard. And sometimes we can wear out, and sometimes you need a little cheerleader, and that's what we can be for each other, is to keep that momentum going and to know that it is important and it is making a real difference in patient care.
Yeah, I say it all the time. Like all the places where I go to speak, I'm like, does anyone feel like a cheerleader? Like you just are on the go team. And, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't always. But ladies, thank you so much for joining us on TopMedTalk and the Roundtable. And thank you for everything that you're doing in practice as leadership in the CRNA community, in the enhanced recovery world. It's really important, I think, to have these conversations and have a voice and give it a voice. So thanks to all you guys. So
thank you.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
TopMedTalk. Nate Majerison here. Thanks for listening to TopMedTalk. Now, before we let you go, it's important that we remind you to subscribe to TopMedTalk. That way you'll never, ever miss another episode. Also, if we could encourage you to join us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, pretty much every single social media platform, we're there. Join us. And finally, check out TopMedTalk.com. If you go to our website, you can subscribe to email updates. That way we can always tell you where we're going to be, what we're going to be doing, and how you can join us. TopMedTalk.com, and click on the section marked email updates. Finally, TopMedTalk is proud to act as the broadcasting arm of EBPOM, Evidence-Based Perioperative Medicine. We'd love you to find out more about them as well. ebpom.org is their website. That's ebpom.org. And if you go to ebpom.org/meetings, you can find out about some of the wonderful meetings that we attend and cover across the year here on TopMedTalk. That's ebpom.org/meetings.